I had been wandering through a small import shop just a short walk from Piccadilly Circus, killing time rather than looking for anything in particular. The place was packed with trinkets and curiosities, shelves filled with items from all corners of the world. It was the kind of store where you could lose yourself for a while, sifting through things you didn't need but found oddly fascinating. Then, out of nowhere, a voice I hadn't heard in years cut through the quiet hum of the shop. "Hello, Mitchell." I stiffened. That name. It had been a long time since anyone called me that. Turning toward the sound, I locked eyes with a gaze I knew all too well. Brown, deep, and capable of stirring emotions I thought I had buried. In the span of a single breath, a whirlwind of feelings swept through me, a flicker of warmth, surprise, confusion, the distant pull of something once cherished, and finally, an icy resentment. For what felt like 10 minutes, but was probably no more than 10 seconds, I just stood there, staring at her. "Hello, Astrid. Didn't expect to run into you here." My voice was level, distant. I turned my attention back to the shelves, pretending to browse. Engaging in small talk wasn't high on my list of priorities, but I knew ignoring her completely wouldn't be an option. Not with Astrid. She never let things go that easily. "Got a few minutes to chat?" Her tone was playful, almost coaxing. "How about I let you buy me a coffee and we catch up?" I didn't even bother to look at her. "I don't think so, Astrid. I have the time, but I doubt we have that much to talk about." My voice was flat, my patience non-existent. Civility wasn't something I felt she had earned, not after what she'd done. A quiet sigh escaped her, followed by a softer, more careful attempt. "Please, Mitchell, I really do want to talk. She hesitated, then added with a small smile, "I'll buy the coffee." I studied her for a long moment. "All right, but call me Mitch. I don't go by Mitchell anymore." Astrid rolled her eyes, a trace of the arrogance I remembered surfacing. "I think I've earned the right to call you whatever I want." "Okay, Tootsie, have it your way." The moment the old nickname left my lips, she flinched. I saw the flicker of emotions ripple across her face. Shock, discomfort, something else she probably didn't want me to notice. For a brief second, the past clawed its way back into the present. There had been a time when that name meant something entirely different. Back in the day, I'd whisper it playfully, dragging out the syllables in a whiny, exaggerated plea as I wrapped my arms around her. "Come on upstairs, Tootsie. I need you, Tootsie. I gotta have you. Let's go cuddle." And without fail, she'd shriek, shove me away, and laugh. "Get lost, you troublemaker. You're not getting anything until I say so. Go take a cold shower, you randy booger." It had been our thing. A game. A ritual that would often end with me chasing her through the house or getting ambushed by the kitchen sprayer. Those were good times. Back when love came easy. Back before everything shattered. Now, that single word spoken in a different context sent her into quiet retreat. Her voice dropped. "Point taken. Mitch." There was something in her tone that hinted at deeper regret, but I wasn't interested in unpacking it. She turned abruptly and walked toward the counter, exchanging a few words with the shopkeeper in a language I didn't recognize. The petite Asian woman behind the register shot a glance in my direction, before nodding solemnly and motioning toward the back of the shop. There, tucked away from the main area, was a small coffee bar with just 2 tables surrounded by wicker chairs. We took our seats, and moments later, the same woman brought over 2 cups of coffee, her smile warm but knowing. Without a second thought, Astrid took the seat facing the wall and the coffee bar. I moved instinctively to the chair that faced the door. Some habits never die. That particular ritual had been set in stone decades ago. It wasn't just preference, it was necessity. A leftover tick from my time in Vietnam. I always had to sit where I could see the entrance. I noticed the small, knowing smile that passed across Astrid's lips as she realized we had fallen right back into an old routine. For a long, heavy minute, neither of us spoke. And despite my best efforts, my mind drifted back to the last time I had seen her. We had built a life together in a quiet Connecticut town, and for 24 years, I believed we had a good marriage. Then, something changed. Slowly at first. A distance crept in between us, and I felt it widening by the day. She was there, physically, but something was missing. I tried to ignore it, tried harder to pull her back, to find what had been lost. But in the end, none of it had mattered. By then, both our kids had already left the house, stepping into adulthood. Reed, our son, had just turned 23. He had graduated college, married a wonderful girl named Tina, and the two of them were starting their life together in New York. They commuted daily back to their small townhouse in New Jersey, working hard, building something strong. Their love was solid. I had no doubt about that. And then there was Tessa, our firecracker of a daughter. 21, fiercely independent, and every bit the handful she had been since her teenage years. She had pushed every boundary, tested every rule. But by the time she hit her second year of college, something clicked. She understood that all the restrictions we had placed on her weren't out of cruelty, but out of love. Now, she was on track to graduate with honors, her name appearing on the dean's list more often than not. We had raised good kids, kids who had taken what we had built and were making something of their own. But in the end, even that wasn't enough to hold us together. I was editing an article for one of the many magazines my employer issued when the phone rang. I looked down at the screen, not feeling out of place because my wife's name popped up. "Hello, Mitchell." "It's Astrid," said this voice, lighter than those he had been subjected to recently. "I just called to wonder whether you can take me to lunch today. Even though notice is very short, I could at least succeed for once and think of going on a jaunt on spontaneity for once." But it was an invitation out of the blue, one that sent my heart racing with excitement. "Absolutely, babe. That sounds great. I'm really glad you called." A pause. "Did you have a place in mind, or should I pick? Meet me at Café Paris in about 45 minutes. Does that work for you?" Her tone was measured, professional, like she was scheduling a business meeting. Still a space between us. I could feel it. But this was a step in the right direction. Maybe, just maybe, things were finally shifting. That alone was enough to fill me with hope. "I'll be there with bells on. Should I wear anything else?" I laughed, lightening the moment, letting her hear my pleasedness. A beat of silence, then flat. "Yes, please." I forced a laugh. "All right, see you at 12:15. Thanks, babe. This is a great idea. I love you." She said only, "Okay, see you soon." And the line was dead. I smiled as I picked up my jacket, anxious to see my wife, anxious for the possibility of reconnecting. I couldn't explain the surge of happiness at this small gesture from her. It had been so long since she had made any effort. I drove across town, anticipation building with every turn of the wheel. She already sat at a table inside the cafe, a glass of wine in front of her, when I entered. I approached her from behind, laid my hand gently on her shoulder, and bent down to kiss her. Instead of turning to meet me halfway, she merely turned her head slightly, offering her cheek. That should have been my first warning. Still, I brushed it off. "Hello, gorgeous. Looking for a date?" I grinned, hoping to lighten the mood. She smirked, but it was faint. "Let's order first. That way we'll have more time to talk afterward." Something in the way she said that tied my stomach up in knots. We ordered our food, and while we were waiting, she filled the silence with conversation about her translation projects at International Trade Inc., where she worked. She talked, and I listened. But something was out of kilter. There was a stiffness to her, something too formal. When our meal came, I ate, while she barely had touched hers. When the plates were clean, she pulled out a business credit card to pay, waving off my offer to cover it. "It's fine," she said. "My boss knows I'm buying you lunch." Then she didn't say another word. Her fingers twisted in the napkin, her eyes cast down at the table. I was about to ask what was wrong when she finally looked up and met my gaze. "Mitchell," she began, her voice careful but unwavering. "There's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to say it." A measured breath. Then, "I've been having an affair for about 8 months. I love him, and I want a divorce." The words detonated with the force of a bomb. I sat there, staring, unable to process what I had just heard. My mind went blank, my body frozen. Everything, our marriage, our life, our history, had shattered in that second. Even after everything I had seen in wartime, nothing had shaken me like this. I was destroyed. She launched into a speech it seemed she had prepared well in advance. "He's very wealthy, a billionaire in fact. He's willing to cover all the costs of the divorce. Since he has more money than either of us can imagine, neither of us will be asking for anything from you. You can keep everything. Your little estate," she made air quotes, her voice oozing condescension, "will remain intact." I barely heard her. The words blurred, her voice muffled, distant. It felt as though I were in a tunnel, watching her lips move but registering nothing. Yet, she persisted. This is what I really want, Mitchell. It's in both of our best interests if you don't fight this. Dragging it out will only make things harder, but the result will be the same. A pause. I'm leaving for Europe tonight with him. I won't be coming back. At least not until the divorce is finalized. Then, the final blow. I'll call the kids once I get settled in Paris. I'm not sure how they'll take it, but you don't need to worry about that. With that, she stood, gathered her things, and walked out of my life. I sat there, unable to move, unable to comprehend how everything had unraveled in the span of a single meal. The kids didn't take it well. They were as shocked as I was, and Astrid never phoned them. The task fell to me. And if the disappearance of my wife was not enough, accusations trauma I least expected were hurled at me, of all people, by my children, who for a while genuinely thought I had murdered her and concealed the body. The succeeding months were nothing less than hell. The kids and I fought. We searched our souls for answers that weren't there. We passed blame, trying somehow to make sense of how someone we loved could do something so cold. Finally, I started digging into the man she had left me for. A couple of discreet conversations at her office, in other words, not officially gave me a name. From there, I turned to the internet, scanning for any trace of him. Soon I found what I was looking for. Pictures of him with Astrid on his arm, dated shortly after she had departed. The pictures confirmed she was alive, but what struck me was the way she was omitted from every caption. Everyone else in the pictures had been named, but not her. Guess they were trying to keep their personal life under wraps. I rebuild in time, and it would take a year before I was even able to think about moving forward, finding my footing once more. During this time, I made several useful connections, namely some disgruntled employees from Astrid's former company. What I learned made my blood boil. Not only had upper management known about Astrid's affair, but they had actively covered for her. Her billionaire lover had business ties with the company, and keeping him happy meant protecting her. They had gone as far as issuing memos, advising employees to stay silent and turn a blind eye. Her affairs had taken place on company time during business hours. Can you say lawsuit? I sued them. And I won. I may not have gotten my revenge on Astrid or her billionaire, but that didn't mean I wouldn't make someone pay for enabling it. It's been more than 3 years since that final lunch, and now, here I am, sitting at a public table across from my lovely ex-wife. She was still a knockout, only finely dressed in most expensive fineries, hair perfectly coiffed to the smallest detail, oozing all evidence of living high. However, it lay in her eyes where the real truth existed, those deep, dark brown eyes that have been the reason for my admiration for many decades and have nothing inside in them. Excitement flashing, sparkling to mischief, danced with life nay, only empty of this fire that previously used to glow within her belly, now fully extinguished since long. "You look good, Mitchell. Mitch," she stammered as she fumbled over my name. "Thinner, maybe. A bit more muscle." "Thanks," I said shortly. If she wanted this conversation, she could carry it. "I still can't believe we ran into each other in London." "What are the odds?" she said with another try at opening me up. "Yeah, pretty hard to believe," I said and gave her nothing. With my new job, I have been doing a great deal of translation. Even picked up a couple more languages added, still fishing for engagement. "That always amazed me about you," I finally acknowledged. "You're an incredibly talented woman." Her gaze dropped to the table, and for the first time, I saw her eyes sparkle. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't hear things like that anymore. Most days, I don't think anyone even realizes I exist." "I would have thought your husband would be showing you off to the world," she laughed harshly. "He never married me. I'm just a toy one that speaks a few languages. When he wants to impress someone, he pulls me out, has me entertain them, charm them in their native tongue. A 40-something American woman, fluent in multiple languages, who can play hostess and," she exhaled, her voice dropping to something hollow, "and who is always available in bed. I guess that makes me a rare commodity." She shook her head. "I've become nothing more than a high-class plaything." I glared at her. "What? Why don't you leave? Get on the next plane and get the hell out of there." She smiled wryly, but there was no humor in it. "It's not that simple. I live in luxury, sure, but I'm watched constantly. Leaving would be difficult. Right now, I can talk to you only because we ran into each other by chance, and I haven't stepped outside. Ilara, the shop owner, she's a friend. Covers for me when I need to disappear for a little while." "It sounds miserable," I said, reclining back. But that's your choice. Then my jaw clenched. All right, change of subject. Why the hell didn't you ever call the kids? Do you have any idea what you put them through? I spent months trying to convince them I hadn't murdered you and buried your body somewhere. They were devastated. She seemed to deflate before my very eyes, and I had never seen her smaller. I wasn't allowed to. On the same day that I was telling you about, I had a private jet. Once they whisked me away, then came the excommunication from home, life, people I had loved. And then she did something I hadn't expected. She leaned forward, her hands clasped, her eyes locking onto mine. And for the first time in years, I saw something real in them. "Mitchell," she whispered, "do you have any idea how many nights I've lain alone in some great house in some foreign country, cursing the fact that I wasn't in our own house in Connecticut, curled up next to you?" Her voice caught in her throat. "God, I miss you. I miss us." I felt something inside me shift, something familiar, an old reflex, that deep, hardwired instinct to fix things for her, to make her happy, to ease her pain. But then, just as quickly, I stopped. No. I threw my hands up, a sign of surrender. "Hold it. No." My voice was firm. "I can't fix this for you, Astrid. More importantly, I won't." She flinched, but I pressed on. "How dare you sit here and complain about the life you chose? Do you have any idea how many people you destroyed in the process? How many people I love had their lives turned upside down because of the decisions you made? No one else got a say. No one else got a choice. Just you. And now, the first time I see you in over 3 years, you make it about you." I shook my head in disgust. "I am so damn tired already." I exhaled sharply, but wasn't done. "And you know what? Not once have you asked about your kids." My voice was rising now, years of buried anger clawing their way to the surface. "What kind of mother does that? Just for the record, you're a grandmother now. Reed and Tina had a little girl. She's going to be 2 in a couple of months. Her name, in case you even care, is Savannah Rose." Astrid's breath hitched, but I didn't stop. "And Tessa? Your daughter? She's getting married in 6 months, to a damn good man named Colin. She still holds out hope that you'll show up. But how the hell can we send you an invitation when you don't exist? Maybe I'll just mail it here." I sat back, made myself draw on a slower breath, but it didn't keep the words back. "And as for me, what the hell did I do to deserve this? I loved you, Astrid, with everything I had, with everything I was. And you threw me away like I was nothing. You didn't even give me a proper goodbye." My jaw tightened. "And through all of this, you've never, not once, apologized for the wreckage you left behind." I shook my head. The weight of the years seemed to lean heavier upon me in that instant. "You're looking for a shoulder to cry on? You lost that right 3 years ago, back in a little cafe in Connecticut." I was just going to rise from my chair, to turn on my heel in similar fashion as she had to me all those 3 years past, when a bright, lilting voice sliced through the heavy atmosphere. "Mitch, I cannot bloody let you out of my sight for 5 minutes without your chatting up some gorgeous female. I swear, one day I will need to beat the bloody living crap out of you." The reproof was playful, spoken with a smile, and that glint of mischief danced in the green of her eyes. Evelyn. I had been so caught up in my tirade that I hadn't even noticed her enter. A warm smile spread across my face. "Hi, baby." I turned back toward Astrid, who still seemed shaken from everything I had just thrown at her. "Astrid, I'd like you to meet Evelyn, my lady friend." Then, looking at Evelyn, I made the introduction. "Evelyn, this is Astrid, my ex-wife." Astrid said nothing more, apparently struggling to regain her composure. First, she had received the full brunt of my anger, and then she was presented with my replacement. The blow had certainly been delivered. Evelyn, however, was as composed as ever. She reached out a hand to greet Astrid, her smile as sharp as it was warm. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Astrid. Mitch has mentioned you often, though I'm afraid not too fondly." A brief pause, then a light-hearted smirk. "I suppose I should thank you, though, for setting this randy bloke loose. Gave me a chance to sink my hooks into him. He can be a bit of trouble, but I'm making slow progress on getting him housebroken." She turned to me now, the smile broadening, and laid a hand over my shoulder, as in old times, affectionately. "Mitch, my crazy Yank, I hate to hurry you, but we really must be off if we are to catch that train to Ely. I don't want to miss it." I patted her leg reassuringly. "No problem, my dear. I was just finishing up." I turned back to Astrid, met her eyes one last time, We have to run, but thanks for the coffee and the catching up time. I'll tell the kids you said hello and that you love them, even if that's a bit of a lie." She winced a little, but said nothing. I extended my hand, and after a moment of hesitation, she shook it. "I do hope you find happiness, Astrid," I added. My voice was firm, but did not shake. "But I think you've been looking in the wrong places. Still, thank you for 23 years. Most of them were good ones, and for that, I'm grateful." A final pause. Then, "Goodbye, Astrid." She sat there, eyes wide in silent shock, very much the same way I had sat 3 years earlier in that small cafe in Connecticut. At that, Evelyn and I stepped out into the vibrant cadence of London's traffic toward the station. She didn't ask about the meeting, nor did she need to. I was sure she'd overheard enough to know it hadn't been a happy reunion. For the first time in a long time, I felt something settle in my chest, lightness, relief. I felt free. Yes, truly free. And maybe, just maybe, even a little vindicated.